But no, I was raised in a Christian home. I did love Jesus. I don't believe in denominations. I believe Jesus Christ died on the cross. I knew that he rose again for me. I moved out to California, and I said, God, I've really been embarrassed about a lot of things in my life, so I can't tell people I'm a Christian. But when I win an Academy Award and I marry Matt Damon, I'm going to say your name. And he was like, well, thank you, Kerri. That was a generous offer. I really appreciate the PR. Prophetess. And, I was going, and I was, living my life in Hollywood, and I was going to church when there was a parking spot, because I was raised by my father. We don't have to go if there's no parking spot. And maybe God was like, maybe you shouldn't be 20 minutes late. I don't know. Any other Catholics in the audience? Okay, we're like, church is only 45 minutes. If you show up 20 minutes late, you can't go to the buffet. And so, my Catholics get that joke. So, I was raised, and so I moved out to California, and I was kind of going to church, and then my friend invited me to her church, and I was like, why do I go to your church? It's far away. She's like, we have potluck dinners. I was like, kumbaya, my Lord. Just like some of you tonight, right? You're like... So I went to this church. I'd never been to a church like this before. I walk in, the pastor had a Hawaiian shirt on, okay? I knew it was a cult. And so... I got my pearls on, my Laura Ashley, okay? Like, we're rocking it. And the people are swaying back and forth. I'm like, don't drink the Kool-Aid. And so I stayed for my fried chicken, okay, deviled eggs, worth it. So I came back the next week. Pastor remembered my name. Very scary. Okay, and then they had more chicken, so I came back, and every time I would come back, I would listen to the sermon, and I wouldn't fall asleep. So I was like, this is amazing. And it was really like the coolest thing, because I loved these people. These people were they were just really cool to me. And the next thing you know, they're inviting me back on Wednesday nights, because if you're really Christian, you go twice a week. And so... And I was like, I can't fake it twice a week, okay? I only have like an hour in me once a week to go and be good. Don't ask me what I'm doing on Saturday night. I'm working on my testimony is what I'm doing, okay? Lay your hands on me, right? So, we didn't talk about that. So, I made friends with this popular girl in church. Her name was Betty, and she was 88. And so, I walked up to her one day and I said, Betty, I heard that you cook and I eat. So I was thinking me and you could go back to your place and hang out. And that's what we did. And we became friends. And then there was this thing where you raise your hand if you love Jesus. And we ended up on a mission trip. I don't even know how it happened. We ended up on a mission trip in the country of Mississippi. And I didn't mean the country. I just meant like in the country. You know what I mean? It was awful, and I was hot, and Betty was like, it's not a mission trip, we're fellow shopping. I was like, you're 88, and you're my worst competition right now, and so we pretended that we were tired, and we were in the back room, and I couldn't do manual labor. I had a sun allergy, I told him. And so we're hanging out, and Betty's like, everybody thinks I'm so perfect. I'm like, well, you are, that's why I'm hanging out with you. She's like, I'm not perfect, everybody who has dirt on me is already dead. How did that happen, Betty? She's so holy, and so, and she just did something that my mother to this day has never done. She took the church mask off and she started telling me about her problems, and she started telling me about her sins and her marriage struggles and things that she didn't feel good about. And I was so excited because I was like, compared to you, I stack up fine, and so... Aren't they preaching about this? And so she was just like so genuine to me and so real, because I thought you had to get over all your bad stuff before they let you in the church. And, I just spent all of my time trying not to get kicked out, And so I went, and the next thing you know, I raised my hand and I end up on this women's retreat, which was not biblical because it was on the top of a mountain in these like tent-like contraptions. We were staying in like these tool shed things, and I asked where the heat was, and she threw a hot water bottle at me. I was like, this is not from Jesus, okay? And so the whole weekend, I'm kind of cranky, but I'm trapped up on the mountain, okay? And there's no cell reception, so you can't get down, okay? That's how they get you. And I'm cranky, and they're doing campfire songs and all this stuff. And my friend who invited me over to talk to me after the weekend, and she had that same look that my children's teacher does all the time. We need to talk right now. And I knew everything. I was 26. And so, She says, I know you know everything. God had a son. His name's Jesus. Jesus died on the cross. She said, how do you know? I said, because the Bible tells me so. What? Got to use my degree. And she said, I know. Jesus died. He died to save you. From what? And I was like, oh, I don't know the answer to that one. She said, he died to save you from you, Kerri. And I was like, oh, shoot, my mother called her. Like, do you know what I mean? It was that feeling of like, I'm on a mountain. It was the same way Kathy felt when she come up here. And so she's like, he died to save you from all your stuff. And I was like, what stuff? Because my mother's from the South. We don't have stuff, you know. And we have prayer requests. And I'd never told anybody about my stuff. She's like, you have stuff, and you haven't walked the perfect walk, and you're not walking white as snow, and you don't feel worthy enough to be here. And I was like, oh, doctor. You know, there was no Facebook back then. And so, but she was right. She's like, I know you because I was just like you, because I spent so much of my life trying to make up for who I wasn't and what I wasn't accomplishing, and I wasn't good enough, and I wasn't successful enough, and I wasn't Christian enough, and I never thought that God could truly love me because I had had adults in my life that set that standard, because some of us were raised by perfection adults. My mother is 79 years old. She has never had a drop of alcohol. She has never smoked a cigarette. She is still a virgin, okay, you guys? Does anyone have that mother? Even if she's here tonight? And my father was a U.S. Marine. Are you kidding me right now? Right? So there was a standard set that we don't make mistakes. We don't, you know, or we go to hell. Choices. And so I was raised with good Catholic Italian values, guilt and intimidation. And so, you know, some of us have like read the magazines or looked at Hollywood or the people that were around us or the teachers, and they don't mean to do it, but they just set an unreasonable expectation that we have to do everything, we have to be everything, and that we're never enough. And we're still living those lives. Even those of us that are walking the Christian walk, we're like, just a little bit more. If I had just a little bit more, if I was just a little bit more, if I could be just a little bit more, then I would be content. Then those around me would be content. And I was running my life on a hamster wheel. I moved all the way to Hollywood, California, so the girls that were mean to me in 8th grade would be my friend, you guys. Seriously. I went back to my high school reunion in a cheerleader uniform. Awkward, okay? Awkward. Especially at the 20 year. It's not good. And I was on General Hospital, and I was on Young and the Restless, and I thought, this is going to make me happy. But soap opera actors want to be on sitcoms, and sitcom actors want to be on dramas, and drama actors want to be directors, and directors want to be Scientologists. So nobody's happy. Nobody's happy. They're Botox. You can't tell they're sad, but they're sad. Even Betty White has emotions. You can't tell. So I'm engrossed in this Hollywood lifestyle. I'm engrossed in just trying to be better. And then I'm showing up with these church people. And then I'm starting to find out about their stories, that they've been an ex this or an ex that, and that God still loves them. But I couldn't get it through my thick skull because all my life I tried to please people. You don't become a comedian because you have a normal childhood, okay? I just wanted attention. I wanted somebody to tell me that I could rest. I wanted somebody to tell me that I was good enough. And I thought, I'll get that when I get to heaven because I'm going to do enough. I mean, I even served in children's ministry for one day just so I could check it off. You know, just... So when I get to heaven, I'm like, I got bingo. I got bingo. I would have served longer, but they asked me to leave. So, all the little kids were like, tie my shoe. I'm like, tie my shoe, you're closer to the ground. Do you ever just try to get involved in whatever ministry you can and you just feel like a square peg in a round hole and you're like, can I usher? No, we don't want your face. No, it's not good. You're scaring people. Okay. I was every ministry. I wanted to serve. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where I belonged. I was in Hollywood. I was getting these compromising roles, and my agent's like, you should totally do this movie. It's a topless scene, but it's with Charlie Sheen, and he's amazing. Yeah, we all know how that ended up. Okay, so That was my life, and I'm trying to be a good girl, and I'm trying to go to church, and it just felt so confusing. And my friend Chris calls me over at this retreat, and she's like, Jesus died to save you from you because you got to get it through your head that he loves you. And no one had just put it simply like that to me, that he loves you, that he's your real Savior, and God is your real Father, and he loves you. End of story. There's nothing more that you can do to make him love you anymore. Then I was like, why am I on top of a mountain at a women's retreat in a cabin right now? Why? I was trying to get my points, and she's like, God created you, Kerri. God formed you. All the stuff that you read in the Bible is true, and he wrote it for you. Every hair in your head, everything about you. He thinks you're funny. He thinks you're special, and yes, a little weird, but get it. There's nothing you can do to make him love you any less. He loves you, end of story, and you're not weird, you're set apart. And when he wrote the Bible, he put your name in it. For Jeremiah 29, it's not just a verse you sing in Bible school. Jeremiah 29 is a verse in the Bible that says, Kerri, Jessica, Sarah, put your name. I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you. Plans not to harm you. Isaiah 43, when you walk through the waters, you will not drown. When you walk through the fires, you will not burn. Some of us are sitting in the murky waters waiting to get a manicure, and God is driving by with a rowboat. And we're not recognizing it because we're having our own pity party, and we're going on Facebook, and we're just making sure enough people like our haircut, and we're not reading the Bible, and we're not communicating with God, and we're not, listen, I'm preaching to myself right now, okay? Because I got 2 apps on my phone. I got the Bible, and I got Facebook, and one of them gives me notifications, all right? And when I wake up in the morning, I just want to see who liked my shoes, and I'm sorry, the book of Matthew does not reference my shoes, and so there is so much help. There is so much love. There is so much that God is wanting to give us. But my whole life, I have struggled with receiving it. I have struggled. And there is an enemy. And he is very real. And he is very good at making every single solitary thing more distracting, more appealing, and more just in our face than God can be. But if we open our eyes and we have a wake-up call tonight and we realize that God wrote the Bible for us, that whatever waters that we are sitting in right now, that the rowboat is here, it's got oars, he's got puffy seats and a life jacket, and he's ready to take us out of that situation. And I don't know what that situation is, but I've been in many, many deep, dark, walk through the water situations, and God has rescued me because I'm standing on this stage and I'm still alive, and so are you. So he is not done with you. He's not done with you. You made it. You made it. You made it every day. You beat the devil by getting up. You beat the devil by showing up here tonight. You beat the devil by just being who you are, in talking to a friend and being a mom and being a sister and being a daughter. And there is nothing, and I repeat, nothing that is too big for our God, okay? Nothing. There's so many stories I could tell you. And I started doing stand-up comedy after that retreat. And that's crazy because I didn't think I was funny. I wanted to do ministry. And God's like, well, you have a big mouth and a dysfunctional family. Go, preach the word. See, God has a particular ministry for every single one of you. You don't have to stand on a pulpit. I mean, they wouldn't let me on a pulpit. But I'm just saying, your ministry could be driving in the carpool lane, singing Christian Bon Jovi songs to your kids. Like, you don't know, but every single day, God does have something for you. And if he put a dream in your heart, it is the devil's job to tell you that he was just kidding. If he put something in your heart, you say, I think God is calling me to serve. I think God is calling me to write that book. I think God is calling me to head up that committee. I think God is calling me to just call my neighbor and ask him to that crazy comedy show at the church. God put that in your heart. The devil doesn't put good and exciting and encouraging dreams in your heart. God puts good and exciting and encouraging dreams in your heart. And don't listen to any other voices.